Todd Lowder, welcome to the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. What's up, dude?
Hey, not much. Just like you, moving forward every day in this new environment and facing every challenge with as much gusto as I can.
Hell yeah, man. Super, super happy and blessed and privileged to have you on the show. You're one of the dudes in the industry that I really, really have a tremendous amount of respect for. And by virtue of just the longevity that you've been in our industry, and all of the insight that you preach. And so I'm happy to share that. I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to share it. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, Ben, it's great to be here. You know, and I have to jump in here. You and I have a mutual friend who we both, I know, have the utmost respect for, and Dan Dodd. And it's been a blessing that he brought us together, because I hate to sound like a love fest here, but dude, the things you're doing out there, are things that I think the industry needs.
Well, doing my best, just like you, man. And you're definitely leading from the front. So, and Dan Dodd is a great dude. He'll be coming back on the show soon. He was one of my first podcast guests. And I'm interested, he's going to come back on. We're going to talk about the benefits of cardiovascular fitness and the importance of cardiovascular fitness, because it's one of those things in the fitness industry that can get a bad rap. It's kind of definitely polarizing. So we'll be getting into that in the next few weeks. In the meantime, you have a fitness, nutrition coaching, performance coaching business in Illinois. How have things, and like I said, you've been in the industry a long time. What is currently going on in your business world?
Well, like a lot of professionals, for us back on the 21st of March, our governor mandated that there was a shelter-in-place mandate. So that if you were not an essential business, closed us down. It was a quick pivot for us. Okay, these are the cards we've been dealt. What do we do now? And within one weekend, that was on a Friday, within one weekend, we got a Zoom schedule up and running, contacted all the clients that were interested in doing some virtual training or program design, and we started moving forward. And that's taken a few iterations and obviously a lot of a quick learning curve for us, but it's gone pretty well.
What was what was your thought process going into that? Like kind of that week leading up to it, starting to hear the talk about these businesses shutting down, starting to face the reality of like, holy crap, we might have to close the door on the gym for an unspecified period of time. I imagine that was a very scary situation. And what was going through your head at that point?
Well, I would say that I would be lying to you if I said I didn't go through the whole range of emotions everybody has gone through and maybe are still going through. So the week leading up, this became very apparent to us. We were going to have to pivot. 2 weeks leading up, we had dropped about 30% of our business. By the week before we were officially closed down, we were down to about a third of our business just because people were scared.
People self-isolating and
yeah.
Yeah.
We have a significant portion of our population that is seniors. In fact, I employ a gentleman that is seniors only. Well, his business was gone a week before everything else. And that's a smart decision for those people. Our kid business, so in the afternoons we run athletic performance. That business pretty much stopped the week before. So anyway, I went through those emotions of anger, of fear, and then toward the end of the week, it was okay, fine. What are we going to do? These are the cards we've been dealt. There's no sense. I wrote a little podcast post the other day, and it said, it's okay to wet your pants. It's not okay. It's not okay to sit in it. We all get scared. We all have those moments, but it's not okay to wallow in it. And we preach that as professionals all the time. Okay, it is what it is. You have XYZ injury. Fine. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to work around it? Life is not a whole lot different than the things we teach the people that are in front of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so you figured out a way to pivot right away. So you've been pivoting into the online space. Now, did you have any existing structure going on, or was that one of those things that what I've observed quite a lot with the current situation, the quarantine situation, is that there's a lot of things that we've had at top of mind that we've been meaning to do, and all of a sudden, switch flips business doors close, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I better make this a reality, and I better make it a reality quick. Is that kind of what was going on with the online space, with some of the coaching?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I had a few here and there. I never pursued it enough. And it's the classic businessman's mentality. I was taking care of what was in front of me.
Yeah.
Well, guess what was all of a sudden in front of me? It was this. So, yeah, we were using an online platform already to do some of our programming with some outreach stuff we did. Well, that lent itself very well to this new environment. I had never used Zoom a whole lot, but that's a quick learning curve. So combining those two things, pulling some resources that had been scattered a little bit and creating a system out of those fairly rapidly really became a necessity, and it allowed us to deliver a quality product that I think, you can't, and it's something I think we should touch on later as far as where the industry's going. You'll never be able to beat the human touch. I think as humans, we need that. But I think we've done as good as we possibly can, and we'll continue to improve upon it as providing that same experience for people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. And I think that's one of the most valuable things that we can implement right now and will always need to implement is how do we maintain that level of human touch, of community, of culture, of this face-to-face relationship as much as possible. And especially from a coaching standpoint is I think that, and I would love your opinion on this, but I think that from a personal training industry, from a coaching standpoint, it's the most powerful aspect of the business that we're in is having that interaction with someone on a daily basis.
Oh man, so it's funny. I think this situation has really taught me a lot about myself. I didn't realize how much of a people person I was until probably about 2 weeks into this. It was driving me crazy, and it was really the lack of interaction with people. Ben, you've mentioned a couple times. I've done this for, and some people will go, "Oh my God, the guy's crazy." For 26 years now, in the trenches, in the field, and I've got some clients that have been with me for 20. I think the longest one's 24 years.
Unbelievable.
I see her every other day for 24 years. Her and I went through her husband having Alzheimer's and going as far as I could, and her losing him and being, she's a part of my family, dude. Yeah. So, one of the things you and I talked about offline is initially we sell sets and reps. Initially we sell solutions. But really, at the end of the day, what keeps people coming back is a relationship and the fact that they know we're invested in them. John Berardi wrote a little, and I'm sure you read a lot of John's stuff. I know both of us have done some of the precision nutrition certifications. He wrote about an experience they had early on where they had a client lose 40 pounds, but gave them a poor review because she felt that they didn't have their back if they really needed them. And man, that spoke to me because that's what it's all about. It's about the person you're in front of knowing you're 100% invested. And I tell my trainers this all the time. You see them for a half hour, 45 minutes a day. It might be the only half hour to 45 minutes that anybody is truly listening to them because they're getting pulled, if they're a boss, by their employees, if they're a wife, by their husband and their kids, or whatever the case may be. So you being invested in that person, shutting your mouth and actually listening and hearing what they have to say and being invested in that is invaluable. It's more important than that Bachelor of Science you have in exercise physiology.
It is, man. And what you just said is gold, is absolute gold. And for any trainers that are listening to this, I mean, heed those words, heed that wisdom, because that is where it's at. That is how to take care of your client. That is how they're going to keep coming back and how they're going to refer all of their friends and family to you. And it's taken me a long time. And obviously we're both still continuing to learn this. It's ever growth, but it's taken me a long time to learn that. And I see a lot of young trainers that are just distracted by other things. And it's just tuning into your clients and listening. That's where it is. Absolutely. So I appreciate that, Todd. I appreciate that a lot, you sharing that. So what do you think contributed to your mindset around just being resilient and adaptable, from your past, from growing up? Why did you decide to get in the fitness industry and so on?
So I was, like so many of us, and I think this is a great story because it does talk about the evolution of getting to that place where it's about humans and not about us. Because really, that's at the end of the day, it's not about us. I was an athlete, went to college, was going to be a high school teacher, is what I had hoped, a phys ed, teacher. It's kind of funny. I did one day of observations in a junior high, and I said, this is not for me. I went straight to the advisor's office, said, hey, what else can I do? And they suggested exercise science. So did that, got into the field, have really enjoyed that. As an athlete, I was a track athlete. So probably, and this is incredibly pertinent to where we are today. About 10 years ago, got back into coaching track. And I remember the moment I walked back out on the track after being away from the track, really having nothing to do with the sport for 20 years. There was this immediate sense of being home again. Mm-hmm. And then pile on top of that, my kid, my oldest son is what got me back into it. He said, hey, they need a volunteer. And I said, well, sure, I've got some knowledge there. And I've done speed and performance training my whole life. So I'll come out. Didn't know how I would handle junior high kids because of that early experience. I fell in love with the opportunity to shape young minds, challenge young minds. And one of the things that fell on me, having been a sprinter, was to take over sprints and hurdles. So I was a quick study on hurdles, and had enough knowledge that it wasn't a big learning curve. But being a hurdle coach has so many parallels to life and obstacles. There's kind of three things I teach a young new hurdler right out of the gates. And number one is to attack the hurdle. Lean into that hurdle. The best crashes I've seen, and I say best because some of them are spectacular, have been kids who approach that hurdle and let up. And guess what? When you let up, man, that hurdle bites you back. If you attack that hurdle, you're going to knock it over and keep going. And then the next lesson I teach them, because I remember this early on, I had a young guy who we had a time trial, and he called the nurse at school and said, hey, I got to go home. I'm sick. Well, he was nervous. So grandma brings him back to school and says, there's nothing wrong with him. Make him go to the meet. So Anyway, it's a time trial. I'm the starter that day. He's standing at the line and he walks over to me and says, Coach, I don't feel good. I can't run. I said, get on the line. I'm about to shoot the gun because I knew the situation. So he gets on the line. He goes, but there's so many hurdles. I said, Kerrigan, it's one at a time, buddy. So there's the second thing. It's one hurdle at a time. If we would have gone into this thing, Ben, and on March 21 for me and said, oh my gosh, this could be 2 weeks. This could be 3 weeks. This could be 4 weeks. No, I looked at 1 week at a time. And realistically, I looked at 1 day at a time. What's the next challenge? What do I have to attack? And I'm going to be incredibly honest. That still happens every day. Now, I've got a bit of a structure laid out. I've been fortunate enough that I'm building a pretty good schedule. But you're talking about a guy who had 7 trainers in a 7,000 square foot facility. And, now it's just me.
Yeah.
Those guys, I told those guys, you got to go make your way. I'll support you in every way I can, but essentially we're on our own until we can all come back together. And you reach out to me, I'll do whatever I can, but there's only so much I can do because I can't be with you. So one hurdle at a time, attack those hurdles. And then, hurdles, if you know anything about hurdles, hurdles are about a rhythm. And I know you've read the Rockefeller stuff probably, and a lot of other business books. Business, life, everything is about a rhythm. Finding that rhythm, and don't get out of that rhythm. If something's not working, then maybe you do step back and go, okay, what do I need to retool here? Dude. So that's my influence, man. It all comes back to what I teach and not being a hypocrite.
Amazing. I'm just sitting here like scribbling notes feverishly because it's just so much value, so much good stuff. And I can appreciate it so much. That's it. It's attacking it day by day and establishing that rhythm and, not letting down. Obviously we go through those ebbs and flows every single hour of every single day. And we're all experiencing that right now. How do you talk to your kids right now? I don't know, has your business, because you've been in the industry a long time. So have you ever, like in 2008, did you experience anything like this? How do you talk to your kids about this right now in terms of growth and resilience?
Yeah. So kind of two things wrapped in there. Yeah, I lived through 2008. Business, had a little bit of a bump then. Well, more than a little bit. Everybody had a bump then.
Did you have your own facility then?
Yeah, I sure
Yeah.
did. So if I recall right, for us, 2008 was probably about a 25% decline for a period of time. And luckily we were at a point where we were in a growth phase leading into that. So that hurt, but
Yeah.
it wasn't crippling. Like, this could potentially be crippling for some people.
Especially too,
Um,
I imagine if you were working with more older clients at the time, what my experience was, and I was in the same boat. I was very fortunate to be working with a lot of, um, older, uh, affluent clients. Obviously, if they're affording personal training, they're usually a little more well off, middle class, more affluent. In which case, they had such a value for their health and fitness and wellness anyways, that it wasn't one of those areas of their lives that it would be like they were selling one of their houses, but they weren't going to give up, you know, their personal training. And
it's
go ahead.
at the time, and I know a mentor of yours said it, and at the time it was somebody that I didn't have as close a connection as you did, but Charles Poliquin said, hey, in these times you will find your affluent people invest in themselves.
Yeah.
And if you're good at what you do, they will invest more of that in you. And he was right.
Yeah. 100% right. And so now, what do you see? I don't know, kind of advice do you give as far as people, not trainers, but people sitting in their homes right now, uncertain, scared, stressed, worried, right? I mean, obviously, we know what you tell your children, what you tell your athletes, but what do you say to the average American right now? How do they grow out of this? How do they pivot out of this? At what point do they start to look at their health as being a major driver of long-term growth and success, or do they?
Well, I mean, Ben, you've got to bet on yourself in times like this. You can't bet on anyone else. So I think in there, personally, I do this, whether it be during these times or during the challenges we face now. However you feed your garden is however it's going to grow. So if you're feeding it fear and anxiety and stress, and that's the antenna you put up, dude, there's a lot of places to find that right now. If the antenna you put up is one of shaping your own destiny to the extent that you can right now, guess what? It's sort of like, you buy an Audi and you never saw Audis around. Once you buy one, you see them everywhere. Once that antenna's up, man, all of a sudden you begin to see opportunity out of this for growth or for outlet or for happiness, whatever it may be. And I think one is putting that antenna up, which is mindset. You and I have spoken about this prior to this podcast. Number two, though, is being in the moment right now. All too often right now when we're in these times of stress, we think forward or backward. I should have or what's gonna happen. But you can't do a whole lot about I should have. And the only thing that's going to influence what's going to happen is the steps you take at the moment. So like I said before, it's okay to mess yourself, but don't sit in it, because if you sit in it, the next moment is going to be a lot messier. If right now you decide what you can do to make the next moment better, that creates momentum. And that goes back to my hurdling analogy. It's about rhythm. I know this sounds woo-woo or whatever, but man, this is how I approach life. This is how I encourage everybody, and my kids as well. You kind of said, how do you talk to your kids? And I've got 3 kids. I've got a senior in high school who, by the grace of God, finished his swim season, his state swim season, literally 2 weeks before schools were shut down. But, he's in a challenging situation that I don't think he really fully understands. He was being recruited. He was trying to make that decision as to where he was going to go to school. And bam, athletic departments are shut down. Coaches aren't returning calls. They can't in some situations based on some rules. And a lot of decisions can't be made. And they've pushed back some of the key dates to help those kids out. So in talking to him, things that are out of your control, that's fine. I said, but what do you do with this time? What do you do right now? How can you take this time and make it to your advantage? He is an 18-year-old kid who's getting up 3 days a week to lift weights. There's a track close to our house. He goes out there on his own. He does that. I brought a sled home. Nobody in their right mind goes out in their neighborhood and pushes a sled up and down the street unless they're trying to make the most of their time. So, that's a great example of, if I got lemons, let's make some lemonade and come out on the other side of this better than where I came in. And I think that's what people need to focus on right now. How can I come out of this better? You said earlier, and I'm rambling a little bit. You said earlier, this is a time to level up some of those things that you weren't. I'm not going to say you didn't have the time because you didn't make the time.
That's right.
But that you weren't taking the time to do before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take a hard look at what your life was before, where it is now, and where you want it to go, because could very well be the best opportunity that you have to make that pivot. If you want it, if you're, you can sit on your ass and you can watch Netflix and you can wait for that stimulus check to come in, but then what? It's not going to be very much money. And frankly, you're eventually going to have to go back to that job that you're dreading. Is that what you want? And it's certainly not meant to lecture by any means, but I think this has afforded us a really good opportunity, even within like fitness and nutrition and health. It's like, we love what we do, but we don't love every aspect of what we do. Let's be real. And so even within that is, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, it certainly allowed me to take a hard look at some of the aspects of the business that I was currently running or previously running, and saying, what within that do I absolutely love? I need this on a daily basis. Like I need this interaction. And that's why I have a podcast. That's why I do what I do. That's why I love networking. But what components of my business do I not need? I don't need to drive 45 minutes down to see a client at 6 a.m. And it's 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., right? That element of my business I don't need. And I was fortunate enough to get rid of that a few years ago. But, so really trying to identify the areas that you love about what you're currently doing, what you need, what fills your bucket up, and what areas you're willing to dismiss or need to grow out of. Have you identified some of those?
I'd say, so it's funny you say that, because right when it all broke, I started to take that inventory. And one of the questions I asked myself is, what do I suck at?
Yeah.
Because,
yes.
And I have no business doing those things that I'm just not good at. And it's most often the things you don't like to do that you're not good at. So yeah, that's certainly, how am I going to pivot? And I don't know if you caught it yesterday, I'd run across this. I think Ben Greenfield put it out, and I don't remember who wrote it, but the guy wrote this analogy. It was a beautiful analogy about, we've been traveling down this road for, you pick a number, 15, 20 years, that I think all of us collectively felt like we were going to come up on a crossroads. At some point around the next corner, over the next bend, there was going to be a crossroads, societally, politically, I think economically. But that crossroads just never showed up. You thought you saw it in the distance, but it wasn't there. It was a mirage. You came around the corner. Oh, there it is. Nope. No, and now all of a sudden we came around a blind corner and boom, we are at that crossroads. And to me, that is just such the perfect visual. Now it's standing at that crossroads. A lot of people go, oh my gosh, it's going to go down a hill. Well, sure. If that's the way you feel, if that's the antenna you put up, it may be. For me, right now, I'm standing there going, okay, what turn do I want to make, and what do I want it to look like? And I'm doing everything I can to set myself up coming out of this to take care of the people that count on me, number one, but also create some changes that will allow me to enjoy life much more fully than I did before. And trust me, I had a very full life before this, and I will after.
Yeah. It's part of, it's just such an interesting dichotomy. It's part of, you're scared, you're uncertain, but you're also excited about I think that's maybe the difference between some entrepreneurs and those that aren't necessarily an entrepreneur, but it's the excitement associated with the unknown and the sheer uncomfortableness of the situation that we're putting ourselves into, and just back against the wall, like pushing forward. Like there's only one way to go, and we're not going to sit here and wallow in our own self-pity, and that's not you or I. So it's like, let's go. And I don't know what it's going to look like, and it's going to hurt. It's definitely going to hurt, but let's go. And for me, that's certainly been the case. which I am excited about, but also apprehensive. It's how it goes.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen to the fitness industry moving forward?
Man, I think we've got some really interesting days ahead. Coming out of this is going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of people that still, I had this conversation with a virtual client this morning. Coming out of this, yeah. So let's just say tomorrow your governor says, okay, you can go back to work.
Which is a very real possibility. I mean, we're seeing that Georgia right now is doing that. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Right. Especially for us in places where there's lots, there tend to be a lot of people in our gym. There's just going to be a lot of challenges. And to finish that thought, I mean, I don't think automatically that means everybody's comfortable and everybody that you did business with before comes back. So, tentatively right now, my plan is to probably consolidate my schedule in a manner where I've got set days in the gym and set days that I'm virtual.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not comfortable, that's fine. We're still going to stay online. We're still going to keep you moving. And as this whole situation progresses and you get more comfortable, then we'll proceed as necessary for your reality. And there's going to be those that immediately come back and want to come back. I think, we're going to have to be a lot more diligent about the environment that we create. Whether it's perception or whatever, constantly having sanitizers and sprays and things like that are just going to become part of how we do business even more than they should have been before. And it comes back down to Ben making people comfortable.
What has I agree. It's very interesting. I'm wondering if some of the big box gyms are even going to survive. I know that some of them aren't surviving right now. One of them, who filed bankruptcy? LA Fitness or one of the
24-hour fitness.
24-hour fitness. Yeah, filed for bankruptcy. Gold's Gym is shutting down locations left and right. I just think it's going to be a different landscape within the industry. With that said, what are you observing having shifted into the virtual space and actually training clients virtually? Because I speak with clients every single day virtually, but I don't train them per se. So what's your experience been with that over the past month?
It's been good. It's been positive. I can see how it could be a very viable business, a different business model. It attracts a different type of client that is more self-motivated and probably maybe a little bit more highly functional, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
To speak to the big box, I want to unravel that. There's a lot of layers of that. The big box thing, that's going to be an issue for a long time. And really that may create a lot of opportunity for us little guys. Like I said, I've got 7,000 square feet. We can spread out in our main workout area. I mean, I could have 5 trainers each with 1, 2, and nobody ever be within, as that small little unit of 3 people. Each unit could be 10 feet, 15 feet apart and do everything they need to do. So that's going to certainly be a viable advantage for us going forward in this reality of fear for a little while. I do think in time that will wane. So there will be a storm we have to weather, but adapt to and certainly figure out how to move forward. From the virtual perspective, what am I seeing? One of the challenges right now is fitness equipment is hard to come by. So a lot of people tried, you mentioned we have affluent clients who don't mind buying whatever. Well, some of it just wasn't available.
Yeah.
Now that's starting to change. So, it's been challenging to program with body weight bands and maybe a dumbbell here or there, but we've done it and it's that will get better. I do see, you and I have done this long enough to understand our job is not going 1, 2, 3 and having some random, everyday random program that they come in and do. It's about creating really a program that has progression and is targeted toward that person's needs put together. So the people that are prepared to do that and have the skill set to do that and identify what people's needs are with a video screen and being, so like, for instance, next week I have an evaluation with a kid who had a pedicle fracture in L4 or in L5. So we'll do an online assessment, movement assessment. Luckily, I know a little bit about the kid prior to this and put together just a base level 1. If you're prepared to have some type of system, you will thrive in this environment because you will have something that is viable to sell, that has progression, and that makes sense, is logical, and effective.
Yeah, I think, what we were talking about earlier was people thriving off the one-to-one interaction, about the fact that they have someone that care. It's also about the accountability, and just being involved in any program, whether it's in person or virtual, comes with an element of accountability that's going to help you change your life in terms of holding you responsibility for your day-to-day actions. And that's, for a lot of people, that's really what it's about. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm exercising in whatever capacity that means, but you and I both know that's not the big needle mover. It's how is that setting up the rest of your day? Does it mean you're going to bed earlier, waking up earlier, getting more accomplished, eating healthier meals in between the day, taking care of yourself, blah, blah, blah. It's all of that kind of stuff. And so that's why I think it's really cool that this virtual world is emerging. Yeah, I mean, like, from a trainer, it means potentially more competition. Like, yeah, there's a lot of yahoos, coming into the online space, but that's not our deal to worry about. It's up to clients to vet out their trainers and find someone that they can relate to and resonate with, and that takes care of them. And it might just be listening to them, like we said. So,
oh yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I've, in 20 some years, never worried about the competition. They are what they are. If I am the best version of me I can possibly be, then that's not going to matter.
Yeah, that's it.
You're going to, I have 7 different trainers, and the personalities and approaches are not always what well, 9 times out of 10, it's not what I would do, but they create and attract a tribe of people that like what they do.
Yeah.
And I've got 7 people who've been very successful in doing so. And I told them before we all left, I said, we butt heads, we argue. In the end, that's beautiful, because it means we're all coming at this with a different prism, a different lens, and we're bringing people together into one facility that normally would be in 10 different facilities.
Yeah. No, that's 100%. I mean, it's by that same token, I mean, this is, I think, my 101st or 102nd podcast episode here on the show. And if you've been,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And if you've been listening, over the last 3 years, if you've been listening for any extended period of time, then it's obviously because something I say or my guests say resonate with you. Otherwise, people probably popped on and popped off just as quickly because I don't relate to them. I don't talk about menstruation and PCOS, and I don't talk about biohacking, and I don't talk, so that's how it is. And it's the same token with the fitness industry. So let's talk a little bit about your, I'd love to just hear briefly about your performance nutrition program for swimmers. What's going on with that?
Yeah. So, as you know, I've level 2 precision nutrition and 28 years in this industry. I've been working with swimmers specifically for about 12 years now. I've been fortunate enough to be in front of a lot of Division I athletes that I worked with from the time they were, usually I picked them up around 12, 13 years old. And of the groups that I've had athlete at University of Texas, University of Hawaii, Minnesota. I got one right now getting ready to go to IUPUI.
Nice.
Another great swim program. Who else? A number of them. Those are the ones that come. We got an athlete that I worked with briefly at Duke right now who's tearing it up. So anyway, a large percentage of them have been females. And so about 3 months ago, I did a performance nutrition seminar, about 2 hours, for the female swimmer specifically. They have a lot of unique, I think, issues that they deal with and I separated it out because Wanted to talk about things like ferritin levels. I wanted to talk about things like body image, and their understanding of what it meant to fuel their body and view food as a fuel and a tool versus talking to them about a diet. Because as you and I know, that's a BS word, and it should be using with kids anyway. So I'm very passionate about helping that population. I took that 2 hours of video and chopped it up into modules, added all the PowerPoint slides and a lot of handouts. Each module has an actionable worksheet with it to try to help them build their own intake system that works for them and their unique needs. And so we'll be pushing that out probably by Monday widely. I've got a large list of swim coaches I want to get that to, and then just any athlete that I can reach at this point in time to tie all this together. Now is the time when they have extra time to begin to put some of those pieces together that I think are the secret weapon. These young athletes think it's the time in the water or the dry land training or this or that. No, the secret weapon is adequate fluid intake. It's adequate sleep, and it's proper nutrition. Because guess what? A lot of your competition's not doing that.
Most of it's not doing it, even at the professional level. It's staggering, and I could not agree with you more. This is definitely, an area of nutrition that I absolutely love, and I'm so glad to hear that you're doing that. So glad to hear that you're specifically focusing on females, which is just the demographic that needs it the most, to create the right frame of mind around how to effectively fuel their body in general, as well as around performance and how to do it consistently and learn. It's a skill, man. It's just like general population. It's a skill. Nutrition is a learned behavior, and understanding your body and going through those progressions and understanding what you ate and how you performed and how it made you feel, and then going and doing it again and adjusting and tweaking to the point where by the time they get into college, then they've got it down to an actual science. And that's a beautiful thing. So I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to being able to promote that. So if you're listening and you're interested in Todd's Performance for the Female Swimmer program, just check out the show notes below, because by the time this comes out, that will certainly be in there. I'll have the link in there that you can check out. It sounds amazing, man. Good for you.
Thank you. I tell you what, one of the things I'm most excited about in this project is the idea of meet day nutrition. Not only in swimmers, but also I see it in track athletes. They spend hours, and if you know anything about swimming, it's typically doubles in the summer. They're there 2 hours in the morning. They're there 2 hours at night. They're doing dry land in between. They invest so much time in training, and then you watch them at a meet, and they're going to getting, chili cheese chips and a corn dog at the meet. That is not the fuel that is going to help you swim a personal record that day. So we spend a significant amount of time talking about pre-meet, during meet, post-meet, post-workout nutrition for them as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've written many a track athlete, many a swim athlete nutrition program. It's just crazy that more coaches aren't talking about that. More college programs aren't talking about nutrition. More professional organizations aren't focusing on sporting organizations are not focusing on their athletes' nutrition. It's nuts. Anyways, it's definitely the elephant in the room when it comes to separating yourself from your competition. So good on you. And I know you just more than qualified to do that. And I'm looking forward to being able to promote it. With that is where can people find out more about you, Todd, regarding your online virtual coaching and your business?
Really, I'm promoting everything with social media right now through Facebook. So I'm putting, some landing pages up there almost every other day. Cool. So that's just the easiest way, I think, for people right now to communicate. And I think that the traffic, all you trainers listening right now, the traffic is up on social media. It's funny. And I'll touch on this real quick because I think it's a good industry thing. For years and years and years, we've heard personal training's dead. I say BS because I've made a living at it for years and years and years, and a good living, one that I'm proud of and very fortunate to have been a part of. It's not dead. In fact, you're about to see a resurgence of intimate small group one-on-one, two-on-one type training, because people are going to be scared to death of crowds. It means you are going to have to invest in people and it's a cool word right now, but be vulnerable with people. It means that you're going to have to be prepared. So I say, watch what image you're putting out there on social media, because everybody's watching. Most people don't give a darn about your political opinion. They want to know how you can help them and what you're going to do for them. So no matter what you think, no matter how hard you think you're right or wrong, you're going to alienate somebody. Keep that stuff somewhere else or to yourself. Focus on what's important, and that's human connection. You can't
Amen
go
to
wrong.
that, dude. Amen to that. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I agree with you completely. I think that there's going to be some interesting new fitness brick and mortar concepts that come from this, moving away from the big box gym, moving closer to more individualized, smaller overhead type facilities, more intimate type stuff. So I agree. But man, Todd, dude, this has been so much fun having the opportunity to talk to you again, be able to share your knowledge and wisdom and just how much experience you have over the years, and really motivating for me, hopefully for our listeners as well. I mean, I have no doubt. So anything I can do to continue to support you now and in the future, please don't hesitate to let me know. And we will have to do this again soon. So thank you very much, brother. Oh, and by the way,
Yes.
just all of Todd's links to connect with Todd by Facebook, because you were great on Facebook. You've got wonderful, what do you call them? Facebook live videos that are just really salient with useful information and points, obviously, just like this whole episode has been. But so make sure you guys follow Todd on Facebook. We'll have the link to the performance nutrition modules in the show notes as well. And yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
Hey, I enjoyed being on, Ben. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll connect again soon. Take care. And thanks everyone for listening. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya.